you have a quail chick that was hatched with splayed legs, the legs straight out beside it, or curled up toes, and can't get their feet underneath them, can't walk straight or something like that, you want to know what to do about it? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Hi there, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name is Chris. If you're not familiar with this channel, well, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. Today we're going to be answering a question that came from a viewer wanting to know how to deal with a quail that had curled up toes. And I've got a picture here to show you because I don't have any birds right now that are dealing with that issue. But I thought I would go ahead and talk about it because it is a pretty common issue that people deal with. And it ranges from curled up toes where they can't quite stretch their feet out to where their legs are straight out beside them, what they call splayed leg. They can't get their feet underneath them and they're just kind of wobbling around on the ground or waddling around on the ground, on the floor of the brooder or whatever. Those are all very common issues that you're going to run into. Most of the time, let's talk about what causes it first, then we'll talk about kind of what to do about it. Most of the time what causes it is those are going to be your late hatches. So those are going to be your birds that, maybe hatched the last, like bulk of your birds hatch on day 18 and then day 19, day 20-ish, somewhere right around in there. Those birds hatching then are usually going to be the ones that have those kinds of issues. And it's basically because a couple of different things could cause it. It could be, high, low temperature spots in your incubator, probably more like low temperature spots in your incubator. If you're getting a lot of issues with that, you'd need to check to make sure your incubator is reading temperature correctly. And you can do that pretty easily. Just throw a couple of, take a couple of thermometers, always get two, so you know that they're correct. Make sure that they are calibrated and accurate, and then throw them in your incubator and run it for a little while. Compare what they read, the inside temperature of your incubator, to what your incubator says it is. It's not uncommon. Pretty much all incubators can be off just a little bit, so it's not very uncommon at all for it to be running, say 99.5 on your incubator, but actually only be like 98.5 or 97.5 or something like that. And that's going to cause more issues with splayed legs, curled toes, bad hatches, all those kinds of things. But let's back up. Let's just say it's just one or two birds that you have that happen to them. Again, it could be a temperature fluctuation in your incubator. Maybe there's a hot spot or a cold spot somewhere around in there that's a little bit cooler, so it causes the bird to develop a little bit slower and never really quite develop quite right. They spend a little too much time in the egg, they can't get their tendons stretched out, getting out, and they end up with curled toes or splayed legs. That's a pretty common thing. Could be vitamin deficiencies, but that's highly unlikely in a baby chick that just hatched. The other thing that could be causing that too would be like if you were to open the incubator to move eggs out, and some eggs hadn't hatched but maybe they had pipped, and that drop in humidity can cause that liner to dry out really bad, make it very difficult for the bird to get out of the shell, again causing a late hatch, the bird spending too much time in there, can't get the tendons stretched out, so on and so on. So there's a couple of different reasons that could cause that. But and sometimes it's just a genetic issue. It's just a bird that just didn't develop for whatever reason genetically. There's a lot of different reasons it could happen. So what do you do about it? Okay, there are a couple of ways you can try to treat this. You can, if it's splayed leg, and honestly they all pretty much fall under the same thing. A lot of times you have splayed legs, they don't have curled up toes. In that situation you just need to kind of force their legs underneath them and get them to stretch those tendons out, basically hold them underneath them for 24, 48 hours, something like that. And the easiest way to do that's probably to get something like a shot glass or something like that you can put the bird in and make sure its legs are underneath it when you put it in there, and leave it in there for at least a day, 24 hours, maybe a little bit longer, to see if that gets it to where its legs are now working. You can try to build, I've seen people build basically what would you call it, braces, leg braces more or less, I guess, for the quail, where it's basically just a piece of masking tape. You kind of fold it over itself so it's not super sticky all the way around, wrap it around their legs, the lower part of their legs, forces them to hold them together. Same thing kind of with curled up toes. If you have a problem with that, curled up toes, sometimes you have the combination, curled up toes and stretched out. You have to do both. But with the curled up toes, you can kind of take a piece of like masking tape or something, lay the quail's foot out flat. It's probably gonna be easier if you have somebody help you with this, because holding that bird getting their toes out flat, putting the tape on and all with two hands is a little bit tricky. But basically you get their feet stretched out flat, put it on that piece of masking tape, wrap it around. It may help to get a piece of like cardstock or real thin light cardboard to kind of set the foot on and keep it where the toes are out flat, and then wrap a piece of masking tape or something like that around it to hold it on there, and leave that on there for 24-48 hours. Basically the same kind of concept. You're causing that foot to be stretched out, and hopefully that fixes it. You may have to do both. You have to build something to keep the toes stretched out and to keep the legs underneath it at the same time. Honestly, these issues are really hard to fix unless you catch them right away, and even then I've had mixed success with trying to fix them, and I usually find that those birds really just don't thrive in the long run anyway. Your best bet in most cases, in my opinion, is just to cull that bird because it's just not worth the effort. Again, if this is a widespread issue, you're getting a lot of this, there are a couple of things that you could look at. The number one being, is your incubator incubating at the right temperature? Check that first. Low humidity could affect it. Low humidity during the lockdown phase, you really need it to be up to 60% or higher. 60 to 75%-ish is about ideal. If it's really low, I'm talking like 30% or something, that could affect it a little bit because it makes it difficult. The membranes dry out. It's difficult for the birds to get out. The other thing that could cause it is if you're feeding extra calcium to your birds, it can cause the eggshells to be overly thick and make it very difficult for the birds to get out. So if you've got a combination of low hatch rate and splayed legs, big issues with splayed legs, curled toes, that kind of thing, definitely check, because there's something causing that issue. And those are the two main things: incubator temperature, or cold spots in the incubator. If you don't have a circulating fan in there, that can happen, or extra calcium in their diet. If they're over, they need about 1 to 2%. 2% is about the max that they need. 2% calcium in their diet. And if you're feeding a commercial game bird food, that's probably going to be plenty enough. You don't need to add extra calcium. If you're going to do that, do not mix it in with their food. Add it separate in a separate container. Allow them to free choice that as they need it. But chances are you don't need to add extra calcium to it. So anyway, thanks to this viewer. I forgot, hang on, let me check his name because I've forgotten his name already. This was from, let's find out who it was. Chris Williams, I think it is. It's Chris-Mariel Williams, but I'm guessing that's a husband-wife, and the person that sent it to me was probably Chris. Don't know for sure, but Chris, anyway, thank you for submitting that to me, giving me a topic to cover in video. I've talked about this before a couple of times, but I've got new subscribers, so it's always good to recover this information. Before we close this video out, I'll take you in. We'll show you kind of my new birds, how they're doing. Some people have asked about that. They're doing pretty good. I did have a little bit of an issue, which we'll talk about when we get in there and take a look in the brooder. Okay, it's a little cramped in here, so I can't, it's hard for me to get the me and the quail in the video at the same time, so we're going to be hand holding this video, or this camera, and it may be a little shaky. I apologize for that. But you can see the birds running around pretty dirty. I need to clean this out, which I plan on doing here after I shoot this video. But I thought I'd just go ahead and shoot video first. But you can see the birds are looking great. I've got them down to 80 degrees. They're roughly a week old today. So the past couple of days I've been bumping the temperature down about 5 to 10 degrees a day, watching the birds, and they're all spread out normal, so they're pretty comfortable with this 80 degrees. So tomorrow I'll probably bump it down to 75 degrees, and we'll see how they do with that. It's actually 76 degrees in the brooder right now, and they're not all huddled together looking like they're shivering or anything like that. They're doing just fine. So I think I'll be, bumping it down a little bit, getting pretty aggressive, trying to get them ready to go outside. They'll be outside probably by mid to end next week. You may notice it doesn't look like 50 some odd birds if you've been following the channel. I think I had 55 birds total in my hatch. Did have one that came out really late that had a splayed leg issue and didn't make it. He ended up passing away. Kind of like I said, it's best to usually just call those out. I did give him a chance to recover. He did not recover, but that's unfortunate, but unfortunately that's what happens whenever you're raising birds. So anyway, let me get this camera on the tripod. We'll talk about why I have so few less birds than I did last week when you saw the video on the incubator and the hatch. All right, I think we can see me in kind of part of the brooder box here, maybe, hopefully. This will make sense. It's kind of hard for me to show. I got my dog just came rushing in here. You may have heard him off camera there. Okay, so what happened was, this was one day, I guess this was probably like 3 days ago. I came in here to check on the baby quail early in the morning. It's still dark out, you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning-ish. And there was about a 4-foot black snake in the brooder. And if you've followed my channel, you know that this has happened to me before, because there are holes on this. This is a Dale's quail brooder, which, fantastic. These things work great. But it does have some holes for power cords on the side, and the snake had gotten in through there. So anyway, I taped that off. This has been a while. Taped those holes off, so I was really confused. How did that snake get in this brooder box? So I kind of started pestering him to see where he would go to get out, and he was just pushing at the lid, basically. So I'm guessing that what he did was he just opened the lid to the brooder, basically pushed it open, and crawled inside the brooder box. And he ate, I don't know, a couple of birds at least, and then there were about 7 more that were dead on the floor, and I'm guessing he just crawled over them. And, you know, as tiny as they were at the time and as big as he was, because he was, you know, that big around, I'm guessing that that's probably what killed them. So anyway, I got him out of the brooder, let him go off in the back lot, keep the mouse population down for me. But it definitely impacted me. I think I'm down to 35-ish birds now. I think I lost about 10 to 15 birds during that. Kind of a bummer, but you know, it happens. But I did make some adjustments to the quail, or to the brooder box now, so I think that this will fix the issue. Let me get the camera back off of the tripod, and we'll give you a shot of what exactly I did to kind of keep the snake from getting back in here, from opening this lid up. Because I can't really show it both in the camera and, you know, have me in the camera as well. Okay, so what I came up with, well, let's just give you a shot of the brooder box itself right here. I mean, you guys probably saw it last week. But what I came up with was, I put one screw in here, I put one right there and one right there. It's very difficult for me to get to that back side of the brooder box on a regular basis, just because of the way I've got a bunch of crap over here and it's hard to crawl through. So I thought about putting like little latches on there to latch these down, but it's such a pain. I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I just tied a piece of paracord to that screw right there, ran it all the way across here around this screw, ran it back over the top underneath that screw over there, and then tied a trucker's hitch right here. So to get into the brooder box, I got to undo this rope right here, and you can look up, I've done video on how to do a trucker's hitch, and then I just pull that over, and now I can get in there no problem. And then to put it back on, this is going to be tricky to do while I'm on camera. I got to loop it around that screw on the other side. Let me get the camera back on the tripod. Alright, so to put that back on, it's not that big of a deal. I just take the rope. Hopefully this is showing up on camera. It's wrapped around that. Take it, wrap it around the screw on the other side, put it through this slip knot hole I've got right there, and pull it fairly tight and put a half hitch in it. And that keeps these lids, I mean, these are tight now. There's no way anything's opening that up. It's incredibly tight. So that should fix my issue. I shouldn't have to worry about it. I've got the ropes far enough away from the heat lamps. Again, these are wired to the cage lid, so they're not going to fall off or go anywhere. That should work pretty well. All right. I think I'm showing up on camera. I can't hardly see myself because it's darker in here than it is out here. But it looks like I'm on camera now. I'll get you guys moved out here so we can got a little bit more room to move around. So anyway, that's about it for this video. The babies I've got, I haven't lost any except for to the snake attack. That was it. And the one that came out with splayed legs. Actually, it was kind of a funny story about that one. I called the hatch. It was day 23, I think. And I decided, well, that's it. None of the eggs are going to hatch anymore. So I just dumped them all in the trash bag. I was taking the trash out and I heard peeping coming from the trash bag. Opened it back up and had to go through the eggs. Held one up to my ear. I could hear it peeping. So I broke it all apart and got the bird out. And it was born, I mean, curled up toes and splayed legs, and I thought, there's no way that thing's going to make it. But I didn't want to just throw it in the trash like that. So I did bring it out. I put it in the brooder. Came out and checked on it a little bit later, and it had passed. So, you know, I didn't expect it to make it, but made a little bit of an effort. But again, most of the time when you have those splayed leg issues, it's best to just call the bird. It's a failure to thrive. It's never going to be quite as good as it should be. It's just the way it goes, unfortunately. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, got some information out of it. And as always, God bless.